Hi, everyone. Ciao. Someone sent me a note asking how I began channeling. And the very quick answer, because it was a long process, the quick answer is I read the Shirley MacLaine book that came out in the early 80s, I think, maybe mid 80s. And when I read the word channel in there, I it was like a light went off in me. And I lived in Los Angeles and I started seeking someone who channeled. I wanted an opportunity to experience it. And even at that time in LA, it was very rare. And eventually, through a bookstore, the Psychic Guide bookstore, I remember, sent me an invitation to see someone channeling in Pasadena. So I went for a whole day. I listened to this person, and it just was not right for me. They were a very good channel, but it was not right for me. And someone there said, you should see this guy, Daryl Anka, who's just now starting to channel over in Sherman Oaks, which happened to be very close to where I was working on this Burbank studio lot. Lived in Venice, worked on the Burbank studio lot. And so I was one of the early participants when Daryl began channeling. And when I saw him channeling Bashar, my mouth dropped. I was in such a state. I don't think I ever asked a question the whole time I was there. And I'm not talking about the first time. I'm like talking about the first year. Yes. When I would go on, I think it was a weekly basis almost, maybe every 2 weeks, something like that, maybe more. I don't remember. But I do know that I felt the truth of Bashar's existence. And after a while, I began to have some wild experiences when I was at work on the Burbank studio lot. And the third time this thing happened to me, I remember I went into my office and I said, am I a channel? Where that even came from, I don't know. But I felt energy come down over me for the first time. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. And so the question then was, what do you do? What do you do? Because I felt like I'd gotten my answer. And through some beautiful circumstance, Daryl, uh, someone was in Daryl's class who was channeling Anima, and she was doing private sessions. I don't even remember her name. And so I went to her, I had a private session, and I asked Anima, am I a channel? And Anima said, well, you made an agreement, but you have free will. And she asked, do you want to align or do you want to say, not this lifetime? And of course, I said, I want to align. And at that time, I had no idea what would unfold. I had no idea what that even meant for me. And it was very exciting. And when I went home that night after that meeting, I began to have the most profound spiritual experience that lasted for hours in my life. I've never experienced anything like it since. And so, anyway, that's how my journey began. Then it began, then it was like, now what do I do? And eventually I got into Sean Randall, the premier channeling teacher in LA. I got into her class. And so for 10 years, every Friday night, there was a class held in my home. And that was when everything was pretty much about personal growth. And it took me a while to understand that. I was very resistant to looking at myself. It was like just channel, but it's a necessary component of opening to channeling, of being a clear channel. And I'm grateful for the experience of Sean, of Daryl, of all the beings who have patiently worked with me over the years. So thank you for asking that question. Lots of love. Thank you. Bye bye.